you'll see that whole aspect of addiction. And rebellion is kind of, you know it's harmful, you're still doing it. You know God doesn't want you to do it, but you're still doing it anyways, and it's not just once in a while, you're hooked. That's the rebellion aspect. All right, any other questions? All right, well, I noticed you had some 15-minute breaks plugged in here, so let's do 15 minutes, and let's see if we can come back at about 11:48. Thank you.
It is healthy to stretch. It is. Can we stand up? Can we stand up? Go out and come back. It's good for you.
Be thy vision, O Lord of my heart, not be all else to me, save that thou art. Thou my best thought, by day or by night, waking or sleeping, thy presence my light. Be thou my wisdom, be thou my true word. I ever with thee, and thou with me, Lord. Thou my great Father, I thy true Son. Thou in me dwelling, and I with thee one. Riches I heed not, nor man's empty praise. Thou mine inheritance, now and always. Thou and thou only, first in my heart. High King of heaven, my treasure, thou art. High King of heaven, my treasure, thou art. me walk with thee. My prayer shall be, gladly will I toil and suffer. Only let me walk with thee, close to thee, close to thee, close to thee, close to thee. Gladly will I toil and suffer. Only let me walk with thee. joy through the ages to sing of his love for me. How marvelous, how wonderful, and my song shall ever be. How marvelous, how wonderful is my Savior's love for me. How marvelous, how wonderful, and my song shall ever be. How marvelous, how wonderful is my Savior's love for me. How marvelous, how wonderful is my Savior's love for me. All to Jesus I surrender, all to Him I freely give. I will ever love and trust Him in His presence daily live. I surrender all. I surrender all to Thee, my blessed Savior. I surrender.
Oh, okay. Wow.
All to Jesus I surrender, humbly at His feet I bow. Worldly pleasures all forsaken, take me, Jesus, take me now.
Yes. All right. Thank you.
I
Yes.
surrender all. I surrender all to Thee, my blessed Savior. I surrender all to Jesus I surrender.
I think it's 15 minutes, so we'll go ahead and get started.
To Thee, fill me with Thy love and power. Let Thy blessing fall on me.
So depression and anxiety would be bad enough if it just caused all of the symptoms that we talked about. But unfortunately, those symptoms are just the tip of the iceberg. And the complications can result in all sorts of financial issues, missed days of work, decreased work productivity, more sick days, unemployment. There was a study done a decade ago, a little over a decade ago in America, showing the lifetime loss of $300,000 for each family who has a depressed family member. So it not only affects the person, it affects their entire family. Decreased academic performance, more chronic illness, more aches and pains, adverse effects on relationships, and higher death rates. And of course, the most common treatment are pharmaceuticals. 50% of patients will experience an improvement in their mood or other symptoms. Interestingly, only one medicine has been shown to improve function. They might improve your mood, they don't improve your productivity. And the one medicine that showed to improve productivity, it only improved it in 6% of patients who took it. So, very minimal. Of course, our approach is going to significantly improve not only their mood, but their productivity. Only 27% of patients taking antidepressants long-term will feel stable with their medicine use and not relapse. So for most people, it's just a few months to a year of improvement, then they relapse. Up to 30% of patients don't improve with any medication. These are called treatment-resistant people. A lot of them end up in our clinic and then find their solution. 45% report unpleasant side effects. More than 60% report adverse side effects. And 40% of the people who take medicine just quit taking them because the side effects are worse than having to put up with it. And then relapse rates. The majority of patients who stop antidepressants relapse within a year, and those who continue medicine, about 40% of them relapse while they're taking their medicine. In most cases within a year, and we can actually do that very effectively once the underlying causes are reversed or eliminated. And so, but it does require a program, but that program will have a far better response rate than any medicines. So how I've described depression and anxiety and how the DSM diagnoses it, it doesn't give any indication to the cause of the disease. And so like most chronic diseases, depression and anxiety are also multifactorial diseases, and the most effective treatments will be based on an all-fronts attack on as many causes identified to be operative. So in 2016, after looking at this for a number of years, myself and Dr. Ramirez published an article in the American Journal of Lifestyle Medicine under their analytic review section, taking a look at the over 100 causes of depression and anxiety. And we found that when a person has 4 different categories of causes, that's when depression or anxiety comes about. So, and over the 100 causes, we categorize into 10 different hit categories. A genetic issue might be the underlying cause. We actually, when people come to our residential program, we will look at their genetics to see not only if they have a genetic mutation, but more importantly, if that genetic mutation is operative, causing some biochemical issues in the brain. Genetics is usually not enough to cause the problem. Genetics loads the gun, but it's lifestyle that pulls the trigger. And so, but we still have to acknowledge if the genetics are there. Developmental, this has to do with adverse childhood experiences. This is another reason why depression and anxiety are increasing. Adverse childhood experiences have significantly increased in America, and I would imagine in Zimbabwe as well. Now, you might have heard about, if you're pay attention to any politics in America, you might have heard about abortion being a big political issue in America. But hardly anybody addresses the reason why abortion is a big political issue. The issue behind abortion is what we call casual sex. In other words, you're having sex for self-centered reasons, and then a baby results. It's not new to our society. This has happened through other societies as well, but in previous societies where they didn't have the technology for abortion, this is when human sacrifices would happen. So all of the baby killings in the pagan world, even Solomon was around at the time when there were baby killings, and these were a result of the casual sex and not really wanting to have those babies. But, of course, if you don't have an abortion, and once you have that baby, then you have to raise that baby. And if you have two people who have first come together in self-sacrificing love and decided that they're going to be committed to each other and get married and say before God and before humanity, I am committed to you until, I don't know how the vow is in Zimbabwe, but I imagine it's pretty much the same. Until what do us part? Until death do us part. And then it goes on, in sickness and in health, for richer, for poorer. In other words, I'm committing myself totally to you in self-sacrificing love. When those two people have children, it's far less likely that those children are going to be abused or neglected. Why? Because they have parents who have already committed to each other their self-sacrificing love, and by inference, that's on their children as well. But what studies are showing is, in America, it's now, I don't know what it is in Zimbabwe. What would you say it is in Zimbabwe for someone to be raised by both biological parents all the way from 0 to 18 at the same time that are in a committed relationship? Anyone want to guess what percent of youth are raised that way in this country? No one's venturing a guess. I know I met a couple of young physicians who are working in hospitals and stuff, and so maybe you haven't seen that statistic. All right, I'm not hearing anything. Well, in America, it's less than 25%. So less than 25% of people are going to be raised by both biological parents at the same time in a committed marriage relationship. What does that mean? That means that abuse of children is at an all-time high. Neglect of children. So when we neglect children, then they're on their devices just doing whatever because the devices are a babysitter, because the parents are more self-centered. They're doing their thing first, and the kid comes second. In fact, they weren't even sure they wanted this kid. They wanted to have the casual sex at the time, but they weren't ready for the consequences. And so we're showing developmental hits at an all-time high. When I first got involved with mental illness, it was too high back then. This was the 1990s, and it was a 1 out of 10 chance that a female would be sexually abused by the time she's 18, and far less that a male would be sexually abused. Anyone want to guess what it is now? It's a 1 out of 4 chance for both the females and the males. 1 out of 4 chance that they'll be sexually abused. And male rates are actually a little bit higher in sexual abuse now than female rates, with the change in sexual behavior that has happened in the United States. And so developmental hits, adverse childhood experiences are at an all-time high. And if you have adverse childhood experiences that have scarred your brain, and you have a genetic issue too, that doesn't give you much more categories. A couple of more categories and you're going to be across the line. The third category are lifestyle causes. We're going to talk about this later on today, but lifestyle causes include things like lack of physical exercise. Becoming physically fit is actually more important for your brain than it is your body. It's very important for your body, but it's even more important for your brain. Circadian rhythm hits. This has to do with the sleep-wake cycles. By the way, why do you think we're having more circadian rhythm hits today? Why are people not going to bed at the usual time or at the time they're planning on it? It gets back to the devices again. So the devices hit us a couple of different ways. And so they're on their smartphones at night, and studies show that even that blue light emitted from their smartphone will cause their melatonin level not to go up as high. And they'll have more sleep difficulties. Nutrition hits are another one, and we're going to have hopefully we'll be able to cover both nutrition, lifestyle, and circadian rhythm later on today. But what we put into our body does get turned into neurotransmitters. And other things that we're putting into our body can inhibit those raw ingredients from even getting into the brain for us to be able to make adequate amounts of neurotransmitters. Toxic hits. These are toxins in our, that we can ingest or be in our society. And then there's social ones like inadequate coping, social aspects, grief, traumatic experiences that have happened to you as an adult, emotionally traumatic experiences. That is a hit all by itself. Then we have addiction hits. We talked a little bit about that earlier, but whether it's a substance or a non-substance that you're addicted to, it's a major issue. And I think it would be important, and this is why I like to talk to even our drivers that drive us places, etc. But the driver that was driving me last night was asking me some questions in regards to sex and mental health. And when I was giving him some of the data in regards to sex and mental health, he says, I don't think anybody knows this here. I've never heard any of this. And he says, I think this would be very important to present to young people. Well, since you guys might be presenting to young people someday, I might go into this. And so this will be the work of Stuart Brody and others, a lot of others, looking at sex and brain chemistry. And a lot of people think sex is sex. It's not true. There are certain forms of sex that are very healthy for brain chemistry, and most of the forms of sex that are being done today are very unhealthy for brain chemistry. And they can set you up for what? An addiction. Sex addictions are at an all-time high in our society, and they have some significant adverse brain consequences. But we'll also look at other addictions as well, but since this one is poorly understood, I think we might want to emphasize this tomorrow. And then medical conditions that can have a significant role to play. This could be a thyroid problem, it could be an autoimmune disease, it could be other issues. And then finally, frontal lobe causes. These are things that are suppressing our frontal lobe, and I don't think I need to go into too much detail. I talked about that earlier. So, how many of these hits do you need in order to suffer from a mental illness? 4. The typical person, I would say the average that we get in our residential program that come in is 7 hits. We'll usually have 1 or 2 people that have 9 or 10 hits. They'll have all of them. And of course, severe forms of depression. And the good news is we can start reversing these hits. These hits are reversible through nutritional and lifestyle things. Even the genetic one, once we understand the epigenetics, we can actually understand what could happen nutritional or lifestyle to shut down that bad gene. And then we can measure it and show that we've shut it down through nutrition and lifestyle measures. And so this is important. Of course, the developmental cause is there. We wish we could live these kids' lives over for them that are now adults. And you know, these kids have no idea how they're being scarred at the time. They think they're going to be able to cope with it, or it's not that big a deal. But later on, they start figuring it out. And so often they don't even start talking about the abuse they had and all of those things until they're about 30, when they figured out that, you know what, I've got all sorts of problems, and I wonder if that had something to do with it. Of course, they're onto something. It actually did. So let me see. Let me just cut out of this presentation and go to this one here. So lifestyle therapies for depression and anxiety. One of the lifestyle therapies is spending more time where? Outdoors instead of indoors. This is one of the reasons why maybe there is less depression. That part of it is less technology use here, but you guys are catching up on that. There are benefits of being outside. Fresh air contains negative ions. It improves learning and concentration. It reduces anxiety. It improves mood. And negative ions are found along the moving ocean surf. You don't have that here in Zimbabwe, but I think there's moving water. I did see a picture of waterfalls in Zimbabwe when I came into Harare Airport, and so I know you guys have things like that here. Do you have thunderstorms? Not this time of year, but after, don't go out during a thunderstorm, but after a thunderstorm, because of that, the negative ions produced by the electrical storm, it's actually very fresh air. You want to breathe that in. Evergreen trees will have it as well, and green spaces and health. Growing up near green spaces has been associated with a 15 to 55% decreased risk of developing psychiatric illnesses in adulthood. The green space effect is dose dependent. It's also been shown to enhance emotional intelligence, and spending at least 120 minutes a week in nature is associated with better health and well-being. Adolescents who spend time in green spaces have reduced stress, better emotional well-being, less depression, and improved mental health. Interestingly, in the scientific literature, they're now abbreviating it NBI, nature-based interventions. It improves depression and anxiety, improves stress control, reduces negative ruminations, improves focus, improves sleep, and when you're outside, it induces more physical exercise. And I don't know if you've noticed, but when you're outside in the sun, it's hard to use those screens. You can't even see them that well. And so it reduces the use of technology. Gardening has even a more positive effect. Reduces depression and anxiety. In our residential program, we have a section where it's called Farm Fun. And we get them all out there working with their hands in 3 dimensions. And sometimes they'll complain about it. They'll say, I spent all this money to come here, and now they're putting me to work on their farm. But they only say that before they get out there, because after they're through, they're coming back with smiles on what they've accomplished. They're talking about it. They've had a far different experience. It, of course, helps to reduce body mass index, increases life satisfaction, increases quality of life, and also increases self-esteem. The Japanese were the ones who came up with the term forest bathing. It doesn't mean like taking a bath in the forest, but what it means is that you're out in the forest, you're walking in it, you're a part of the forest. Researchers found that walking for 2 hours in a mixed natural forest environment improved tension and anxiety, depression and dejection, anger and hostility, fatigue, confusion, Additionally, forest bathing changed negative mood states to positive ones, just being out there for 120 minutes. And we'll actually utilize that in our 10-day program as well. We'll have a time where we take them to some beautiful natural forests for that time period, 120 minutes. It's something that it would be good for all of us to plan to do about once a week in our experience. It's also been shown to increase serotonin levels. It lowers blood pressure in those with hypertension. In fact, I'm thinking when I saw how common hypertension is here in Zimbabwe, the statistic I showed that like 40% of you have high blood pressure. I'm thinking maybe we ought to do a whole talk on hypertension. It improves autonomic function, improves the immune system as well, less respiratory allergies, improved mood and stress, improves even attention deficit disorder, and improves your sense of awe and gratitude and selflessness. Now, is it just the exercise in that forest? No. There's other things in forest bathing having a role to play. What is that? Those trees are emitting oils that we are breathing, called aromatherapy. And they actually have some nice effects. There's we're calling these essential oils that have been shown to benefit both depression and anxiety. Selexon is one of those essential oils. Where does that come from? That's an oil from the lavender plant. And I will go into that here in a little bit. Bergamot is another essential oil that comes from a citrus plant. Sandalwood, actually from the wood itself, has an oil that is antidepressant. Mint, also antidepressant. And then sweet almond. We'll actually utilize sweet almond oil to do a massage. So the massage itself helps, but the aroma from the sweet almond in our residential program will have a very positive effect. And then pine needle extract, which fortunately Weimar is surrounded by pine trees. We're in the foothills of the tallest mountain range in America called the Sierra Mountains. You've probably heard of the Rocky Mountains. The Rocky Mountains also are very tall, but the Sierras are taller. And so the tallest mountain peak in America is in the Sierras, and of course the comparison is the ocean floor because it's not too far away from the Pacific Ocean over there. And so that makes it taller as well, but a lot of pine trees in those mountains. Selexon also has been shown to help anxiety, and then there's other ones as well. We won't go into a lot of detail that have been shown to be helpful. But the trade name is called Lavella. You can actually find this in a concentrated in a capsule. And it's been shown to contain significant anti-anxiety relieving properties without sedation, addiction, or frontal lobe suppression. By the way, most of the anti